the Conservatives. They are doing an enormous amount of carpet bombing of advertising against Mark Carney right now.
Welcome back to Moose and Loose. Today we got Mark Carney trying his best to disarm Pierre Poilievre's campaign backbone in axing the carbon tax. Now, he hasn't really axed the carbon tax. He has, but he hasn't. He's left a back door for himself. We also got Mark Carney making stupid decisions right out of the gate as Prime Minister. We got an update on polling. There's a lot of chaos going on here. Let's jump into this. So first off, we got Sharia Teast here. He says Liberal back in minority territory for the first time in 2 years. That's coming off of this poll here. You can see 157 seats for the Liberals and 149. This is an electoral model update on his website here. We got popular vote at 38% for the Conservatives, 34.5% for the Liberals. We got a latest poll here from Liaison Strategies model out. This is a 41% for the Liberals, 39% for the Conservatives. What's interesting is we look at this, it's plus 5% for the Liberals, but the Conservatives haven't changed. So the Liberals are eating the NDP and the Bloc to get their gains here. And this puts the Liberals in a majority government. Now, the polling data, I don't know. Conservatives don't answer the phones. Conservatives are out working and making money. Are the polls shifting? Yes. The Liberals are getting a surge for sure because of Mark Carney. Is it this good? I don't think so. We got Shrey Tista pointing out this from that latest Ecos poll, that the Liberals are ahead in Alberta. Look at this. This is so stupid. So don't read into this any more than that this is a corrupt poll, but the Liberal Party in Alberta, 43.9% Liberal Party, Conservatives 40%, 40.4%. There's not a snowball's chance in hell that the Liberal Party is going to be polling higher than the Conservatives in Alberta. I'm sorry, but it's not going to happen. Now, what does give us more accurate polling data is Polymarket. This is the betting market. They have 3 different polls here. This one is which party will win the popular vote in the next Canadian election. And we see the Conservatives here dropping off a cliff. This is because Mark Carney just axed the carbon tax. So we'll get into this. He's done a dirty trick where he's left a back door for it. But what's interesting too is you look here, Mark Carney is diving off a cliff as well. So while the Conservatives have gone down, so have the Liberals. We've got this one as well, which says which party will win the most seats in a Canadian election. You see, once again, because the carbon tax, Poilievre has dropped down here to 54%, the Liberals at 44%, and this one here shows the next Prime Minister of Canada after the election, and they are almost tied 50 to 49%. This is getting a little bit spooky, because this is the betting market. These people have their money behind this, so it's their job to not lose money. So with that, we have Mark Carney being asked about election. When's it coming? Is it a snap election? This is what he had to say.
Are you going to be calling an early election? And if so, when should Canadians expect to go to the polls?
Well, they certainly should expect to go to the polls before November.
So before November, he's not giving us any more than that. But we do have Jagmeet coming out today with full support from Mark Carney.
Mr. Singh, you mentioned that you want to pass supports for workers. Would you be willing to work with the Carney government to stay in power even after March 24th?
What I've said is my priority right now is at a time of unprecedented unpredictability and threats to our very sovereignty, that given that seriousness, we need a protection in place for workers. And it's not there right now. Right now, only 40% of workers are covered by the current EI. So for workers that are staring down the barrel of potential job losses in a massive degree, a massive level, they don't have protection. So I want.
Dude, you could have called an election back in December and workers would have had their jobs saved. Instead, workers are losing their jobs right now because of the tariff war. And this all falls on Jagmeet Singh's shoulders. He does not care about workers. He only cared about himself and getting that greasy pension. Sellout Singh sells out once again.
I want to see those measures put in place. We can make that happen rapidly. We also need an economic plan to create jobs in our own country. We can't predict what's going to happen in the States, but let's have a plan in Canada where we use Canadian products, Canadian workers to build up our country. I want to see that plan passed first and then an election afterwards.
If it takes more time to get that plan, if it takes more time to get that plan in place, would you be open to cutting a deal with the Carney government to work through to get that plan after March?
Well, yeah, it's going to take time to get that. If that pushes
Well, yeah, I'll do anything because I'm a sellout.
the election back a bit, that's fine. For me, the priority is to get this stuff done first, and then we go to an election. If it takes more time to put in place protections for workers, to put in place an economic plan to create jobs for workers, yeah, I'm prepared to have a bit more time to get that done for workers, and then we go to an election.
This is very interesting because it didn't seem like the NDP caucus wanted to support this, but he's saying this. You got to think the only reason why they would support Carney at this point because they're getting absolutely decimated in the polls and they need time to attack Carney and sway people back over to the NDP. They're pulling down at like 12 or 13% at most, when this party should be at 18 to 20%.
A cutoff for how long you'd wait for an election? Would you wait indefinitely to pass this?
No. This has to be done rapidly because people are right now losing their jobs. So there's a time crunch here. Workers are already losing their jobs just on the threats of tariffs, let alone tariffs are now in place and more to come. So we want to see these protections put in place rapidly. We want to see a plan put in place rapidly to create jobs in Canada, and then we can go to election.
This guy's such a sellout. He knows full well he's going to lose his seat. So he'd rather just hang around for another few months, 8 months or so, and just keep cashing that big paycheck because he knows he's done. His political career is over. Translation, Jagmeet says, I want as many paychecks as possible before they throw me out. Exactly. That's it. I mean, look at this. His own riding here. He's third place. Jagmeet is done. And there's this one here, South Burnaby. So Jagmeet, his riding got split in half, so he can choose other ones, but it doesn't matter. They're all not NDP. With that, we've got CBC saying the Conservatives will be doing an enormous amount of carpet bombing of advertising against Mark Carney. I have some words on that. Let's just play this first.
Yeah, I mean, this is when Mark Carney will be tested. He has only been a politician for a matter of months, and he's about to get a real sense of what that's like. And he's going up, to your point, against a fierce debater, a lifelong politician in Pierre Poilievre, and someone who really knows how to campaign and has been doing that since he became leader, essentially. So that will be, I think, a real moment of truth for Mark Carney. What he is hoping, though, and what the Liberal Party is hoping, is to spin the momentum that they have now coming out of this leadership race into an election campaign. As we know, he doesn't hold a seat in the House of Commons, so there is really no benefit to the House coming back, where Mr. Carney would not have a space and not, get camera time the same way Pierre Poilievre would be. An election writ drop also means that spending by the Conservatives, they are doing an enormous amount of carpet bombing of advertising against Mark Carney right now. There would be limits put on their spending, and so that would turn the taps off that a little bit.
Turn the taps off, huh? What about the taps that are coming from Protecting Canada? Or the taps that are coming from the CBC? This is a serious draconian problem in this country. So just think about this for a second. She's talking about the Conservatives carpet bombing. Well, let's take a look. Here we got an article saying the Conservatives are well-funded, paying $8.5 million in advertising in 2023. An entire year, $8.5 million. The CBC got $1.442 billion for the past fiscal year, which works out to be roughly $120 million per month, or $4 million per day that they can spend to run their operations. Now say out of their operations, a quarter of that goes to slandering Pierre Poilievre. $1 million a day? We're talking $365 million of slanderous crap on mainstream media versus the Conservatives' $8.5 million. This needs to end in our country. Enough is enough. On top of that, you've got Protecting Canada, which has already spent like $6 million. So it's equivalent to the Conservatives. And then you've got the Liberal spending on top of that. So the fact that the Conservatives are still in the lead just shows how corrupt this government is and how badly people want change. Because this government, Mark Carney, the Liberals, all of them, they are destroying this country and they need to go. The CBC needs to go. All these losers need to go. But the media bias is not considered election spending, right? Exactly. It's pretty easy to diss Carney. The lies he's already been caught out on are already piling up. So in other news here, we got Stephen Guilbeault coming out. What is this? He come out with this letter. It's like a love letter to climate change. So thank you, Prime Minister Mark Carney, for his confidence. My statement, he says, it's been an honor of my lifetime to serve as Minister of Environment. He talks about all his great accomplishment. Our emissions are at the lowest in 27 years, blah, blah, blah. Just names off a bunch of crap. And then he says although the fight is over now, I'm moving on to do his role in Canadian Culture, Identity, Parks Canada, and Quebec Lieutenant. Why? Why is he posting this? Yeah, treason, exactly. So next up, we got Mark Carney here axing the carbon tax, but he left it in the legislation that he can just bring it back easily.
We've already taken a big decision as this cabinet, because this is a cabinet that's focused on action. It's focused on getting more money in the pockets of Canadians. It's focused on building this economy with all the tools that we have here. So based on the discussion we've had, and consistent with the promise that I made and others supported during the leadership campaign, we will be eliminating the Canada fuel charge, the consumer fuel charge, immediately.
This guy doesn't even know how to axe the carbon tax properly. Canada fuel charge? Trudeau's never once referred to it as that. Or Pierre Poilievre. People are just going to be confused with this. They're like, is that the carbon tax?
Immediately. And we will be ensuring that those Canadians who have received rebates will continue to receive a rebate in the next quarter. The next payment is before the end of April.
That's right. So people will still get those rebate checks. Not myself in British Columbia. David Eby steals all of those. So then what is it? Was the carbon tax stealing our money, or does it help us out? 8 out of 10 Canadians. You guys can't have it both ways. So essentially they're admitting that they're lying to us and they were stealing our money this entire time. That's what this is. It's an admission of lying.
This will make a difference to hard-pressed Canadians, but it is part of a much bigger set of measures that this government is taking to ensure that we fight against climate change.
He just said it. This makes a difference to hard-pressed Canadians. So he admits that their carbon tax was ruining lives.
Companies are competitive and the country moves forward. So it's my honor on behalf of my colleagues to sign this.
Look at these absolute sellout losers. They'll flip-flop on their own policy if it means they can try to dupe Canadians into more years in the government. They're just doing this to take away power from Pierre Poilievre, when really they're just going to put this on big businesses and they're going to pass those costs down to us. We're going to get charged this one way or another. Now check out this. There was a hot mic here that caught reporters talking about this. It says they admitted that because the Carney Liberals didn't actually axe the carbon tax law, they can bring back the carbon tax and raise it whenever they want.
The carbon tax will come back. Will it?
Yeah, if they can lower the carbon, they can raise it to whatever they want to get.
They can bring it back whenever they want. Do we trust Mark Carney? Is he a trustworthy person, considering he's caught lying like 4 or 5 times now at least? Carney suspended the carbon tax so he can go to election. Carney didn't cancel the rebate because it's law and he can't cancel laws where payments are due to taxpayers. And we got Melissa Landsman posting this one here saying Mark Carney is not going to abolish the carbon tax. They're even talking about it on CTV.
Because they're doing this through order in council, technically the consumer portion of the carbon tax is hanging around. It is still there. It's on the books. How do you think that that'll play? And what do you think that Pierre Poilievre and other opposition parties are going to do with that?
I mean, that's exactly what Pierre Poilievre said was going to happen earlier today. I was at his press conference. He talked about where this country is going to be in 60 days' time or 90 days' time. In his words, God forbid if Mark Carney won an election, it's coming back. That was the message he was sending to Canadians. And while he's not necessarily right, you can't guarantee that it's coming back. The mechanism is still in place. It could come back if the government wanted to do so. They could just as easily make the change they're making today at some point down in the future because that bill exists.
We can't trust these guys. They've lied to us for years. They lied to us about the carbon tax. Are Canadians this dumb? That's what this election will be. It'll show are Canadians smart or are Canadians dumb, because the Liberals lied to us. Carney just admitted in his press conference there that they lied to us. Are Canadians going to trust him, or will Canadians vote for Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives? And there's still carbon tax in industries. Why are we carbon taxing our own industries that are suffering so bad when other countries like America are not? We got Brian Lilly posting this clip here of Pierre Poilievre saying this is entirely accurate. If Carney raises the industrial carbon tax and Trump puts tariffs on, kiss goodbye to steel and other industries in Canada.
Reality is that Mr. Carney loves carbon taxes, and if you elect him, you will pay a brutal price. And he has also said he will be bringing in a shadow carbon tax targeting Canadian industry, and he has specifically singled out steel. There will be tens of thousands of steel, aluminum, cement, and other industrial jobs lost under Carney's carbon tax. The combination of Trump tariffs and Carney's carbon tax will destroy our industrial sector and make us hopelessly dependent on the Americans, all while profiting Mark Carney's personal investments in other countries, investments that he still knows he has, investments that, like the carbon tax, he just wants to hide. The good news is that common sense conservatives will axe the tax for real, for everyone, for good. We will make sure it never comes back. There is only one way to axe this tax, and it is to vote for the Canada First conservatives.
So this comment here, it says Carney has a doctorate in economics, so I'm sure he knows what will help. And no, I'm not a liberal. The question is not knowing if he knows what would help. What would he do? What is in his best interest? Is he going to do what's in Canada's best interest or himself? That's the key question. People don't give up a lucrative career to come save a country and make way less money. Mark Carney was making hand over fist at all those other companies. I'm not buying it. Mark Carney is not trustworthy. This clip here says a lot about Mark Carney. He's asked what his plans are. He's going to Europe when we have China imposing tariffs on Canada that will decimate the canola industry in Saskatchewan, and Trump imposing tariffs, and Carney decides to go back to Europe probably to pick up some of his stuff from his house and have a little fling with Macron.
I received the questions on a trip to Paris and London in a few days. I received an invitation from the president of France to discuss a variety of issues, both economic, commercial, to reinforce those relationships.
What issues? Is France putting tariffs on us? This guy's the biggest loser ever. He leaves in a critical moment when he should not be dealing with France. Who cares?
Also issues related to security in Europe, in Canada, similar.
Why should we care about security in Europe? We have problems on our southern border and on our western border.
Discussions will be had with the Prime Minister in the United Kingdom. This is sensible. Security is a priority for this government, reinforcing our security, as is diversifying our trading and commercial relationships. Of course, with both Europe and the United Kingdom, there are many opportunities. And as I said a moment ago in my remarks, there are historic ties. With respect to the president, I don't have plans to go to the United States. I look forward to speaking to him at the appropriate moment. Thank you.
The appropriate moment. He doesn't know when that is. This guy's such a loser. He needs to go prepare with his WF masters before he can go talk with Trump. Scared of the big bad man. Yeah. Got Kirk posting this one. It says, here is how many ministers there are in Mark Carney's cabinet from Alberta. 0. Saskatchewan, 0. Territories, 0. Carney couldn't even pretend to care about Western Canada and our farming and natural resources rich areas. In this clip here, he's asked about the vast majority of Trudeau-era ministers. They're all in Trudeau's cabinet. There is no change.
Speaking of your cabinet, the front line of your cabinet and the vast majority of your cabinet were all ministers during Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's time. How does this represent change?
Well, there's a couple of things. One is this first thing, smaller cabinet, more focused on action. Everybody in this cabinet is senior.
As opposed to Justin Trudeau's cabinet, which was not focused on action and just ripping us off? Is that?
Everybody in this cabinet is senior. So I don't accept the front line and the implication that there's a front line and another line. The second thing is one of the top issues, of course, is the crisis with respect to the United States and the opportunity with respect to trade diversification. So keeping together those individuals who have been on, and now I'm going to use your term, the front line, but the front line in a commercial battle, keeping together those individuals so that we are seamlessly addressing these issues and seizing the opportunities was very important to us, and that's reflected in the cabinet. But of course, it's reflected fundamentally in their capabilities, which are here for the moment.
Their capabilities, as in fleecing the taxpayers for hundreds of millions of dollars. Release the documents, SDTC documents, release them to the RCMP. What do you guys have to hide? These guys caught money laundering and they won't release documents. I heard no answer. Even on CBC, they're talking about how Carney is excluding provinces.
How has this changed when so many people are the same? Why are PEI and Alberta left out of the Team Canada cabinet? Why are there only 2 ministers west of Thunder Bay? There are 14 British Columbia MPs in the Liberal caucus. There is 1 cabinet minister. I know 4 of them aren't running, but you have Randeep Sarai, you have Terry Beach, you have Talib Noor Mohammed, organizers and fundraisers. So the regional priority and representation in this cabinet.
Carney has stacked the deck and basically told Canadians which ones he doesn't care about, which ones he does. We got Rebel News here asking Pierre Poilievre about the Liberal leadership turnout and whether he thinks it's suspicious how pathetically low the turnout was, and was there something else going on there? The fact that Chrystia Freeland and Karina Gould had so little votes in their own ridings. They would have met people face-to-face door knocking, and yet barely any votes?
The Liberals say that nearly 400,000 people registered to vote in their leadership contest, but only 150,000 of those were verified, and they have not explained why nearly 250,000 voters were disqualified or otherwise didn't vote. And the writing by writing results are remarkable. Karina Gould only got 190 votes in her own district, and Chrystia Freeland only received 188. How concerned are you about the integrity of Carney's mandate?
First of all, Mr. Carney has no mandate. He has not been elected by the Canadian people. He's been installed by the Liberal establishment and Justin Trudeau's insiders. They prevented people from debating him. They've been hiding from the media because every time he answers questions, he gets caught in lies or says incredibly idiotic things. As for the Liberal leadership result, those numbers are either just pathetically low because Canadians did not want to vote for a weak, conflicted Mark Carney who had sold out the country by moving jobs and money out of Canada, or they show something more suspicious. But unfortunately, I don't have all the details. All I can say is that is a very small number of people that voted in the Liberal leadership race, much smaller than in ours. We excited people because people thought this is a chance to bring home the Canada that we knew and still love, where you can work hard and have a great life, where you can afford a home and where seniors can put food on their tables, where our streets are safe. That's one of the reasons why I was blessed to receive the biggest number of votes of any leadership candidate in Canadian history.
It's rigged. It seems very much it's rigged. Exactly, rigged. You got a great answer from him. Yeah, that was a great answer. Exactly. Poilievre exposes Carney's weak mandate. He has no mandate. We also have Rebel News on the scene here, and they're asking people about this truck. So I showed this video earlier, this truck driving around with this whole stuff that I'm not going to read out. They ask a Liberal about this, and he has a complete meltdown.
Our message on our truck.
I think it's appalling. Yeah. I think you should be ashamed of yourself.
For which reason?
Because you're fascists. Rebel News is a fascist organization.
You don't think that he should disclose his relationship with the convicted sex trafficker?
He's standing beside someone.
No, I've been seeing also another photo hanging out in the grass.
You should be ashamed of yourself. Get away from me.
No, but like...
This guy should be ashamed of himself, being a traitor to Canada. Wake up. This is a CBC watcher.
You don't think that he should actually be accountable of certain things that he did? He's the Prime Minister now.
What did he do?
Just answering the question to disclose the relationship, that's it.
I know what Rebel News is. I have no respect for you. It's yellow journalism. Turn the camera off.
You don't know even who I am.
This is a typical Liberal voter here, just completely stubborn, watches CBC all day, doesn't think for themselves, and that's why our country is in the state it's in right now. This here, weak men like this guy, is why Canada is absolutely crumbling. This old guy is exactly what's wrong with our country. That guy represents 90% of Liberals, completely closed-minded people that run away when confronted with facts. I doubt even knows the definition of the word fascist. People are saying, I find it offensive that Carney is associated with that stuff on that truck, this stuff. Well, there we have it. Things getting shooken up here from Mark Carney pretending to axe the carbon tax, you know, cutting it out. Is David Eby going to follow? You remember he said he's going to cut the carbon tax in BC if the federal government does it. Well, Mark Carney has technically done it. He can bring it back whenever he wants. He didn't actually cut the carbon tax from law, and he's going to jack up the consumer portion. So we're still going to feel the pinch. It's just going to be coming from another way. Does David Eby follow? All these politicians are terrible. If Canadians don't wake up, Mark Carney will be the end of Canada.